So I looked at this game. These games, and said, yeah, I could do that, despite the fact that I don't like horror games and I've never played a horror game, let alone Five Nights at Freddy's. Also, I convinced my friends to help me make it in 2 weeks. And this is Benny K. Hi, I'm Ben Curtin. I'm a guy who makes games. Okay, games singular. I made one complete game for a game jam a couple weeks before this one. I meant to make a video about that, but I didn't prepare anything to do so. So here I am, making my first video about my second game. This time, I'll be participating in the Pig Squad Summer Slow Jam of August, where I'll have a little over 2 weeks to make a horror-themed game that has something to do with not letting it out. But before we get started, let me introduce the rest of the group that I'm working with. This is Tegan. He's one of my close friends, and he does art. Are you drawing, son?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that looks like a gotcha game. Tegan, that looks like that. Tegan is also a fucking gotcha addict who doesn't know when to stop. This is Cole, Tegan's twin. Also a close friend, he likes screaming. He will be doing some voiceover work, aka making the player shit their pants. Last but not least, this is City Fires, who will be our composer. Cool guy, made music for these things. So, let's get started. Alright, time for some brainstorming. Again, I have never played a Five Nights at Freddy's game before, but I really like its simplistic gameplay and this weird, not fisheye effect. Also, both jam hosts think that FNAF is too scary, so what better way to scare them than with the FNAF clone? Our idea is pretty basic as far as games go. Contain a creature in a pod, and slowly kill it with fun. So yeah, basically FNAF, with one enemy. Wait, that already exists. The difference is that the enemy will be staying put, and there's going to be way more multitasking involved to keep the creature entertained. Plus, there's going to be random events to keep the player on their toes. God damn it, this is still... The first order of business is to mock up a room for the player to be in. Okay, that's good enough. Let's put it in the project. Just gonna copy the shader real quick, and this code I made already that will work on the first try. And presto magico, we have a completely original idea that works like a charm. However, this effect makes the game lag when I'm recording it for some reason. After some research, it turns out that the stutter has nothing to do with my game and everything to do with Windows playing games in windowed mode. Having a little more than a few Firefox tabs open doesn't help either. So when I play the game in full screen and then record, the game runs as smooth as butter. This is basically unavoidable without some hacks, so I'm just going to ignore it for now. Now it's time to put in some test graphics that I can animate so I can start adding basic gameplay elements. I tried my hand at 3D modeling, realized I could not learn 3D modeling in 2 weeks, did what was obviously the right choice, and brute forced my way into an acceptable looking 3D render via Godot. Don't worry, Tegan will trace over it anyways. At the end of day 3, this is my result. A room with a lever that makes a satisfying lever noise. It does nothing, but is ready for me to implement via code. Also, the sound is just great. After finding a game-breaking issue with resizing the window, wrestling with how Godot handles input, making a frustrating workaround, and other bullshit that you don't need to worry about, I added the console, the temperature controller, the pattern visualizer, and the music player. All in 2 days work. Before we continue, I should probably explain what the game is actually about and justify the title of this video. The objective is to kill Brainrot, the creature in the jar containment pod. Before you can do this, you have to distract it by making it happy, by turning on music, feeding it information, tapping a pattern, and adjusting its temperature. At max happiness, the monster will make a happy noise, reminding you to pull the lever quickly so that it can be crushed while it's distracted. As the game progresses, the monster gets more aggressive and it starts becoming picky about what it wants from the player, like specific music tracks or specific commands. Also, the monster is an asshole and makes you hallucinate weird things to get in your way. Your only indication of progress is the scientist talking in your ear and how many times you've compressed the monster. Crush the monster 7 times and you win. Fail to make the monster happy and, well, you get the idea. I call this reverse FNAF because A, you have to work to make progress rather than wait for a time limit to end. B, you're not trying to drive an enemy away, you're trying to keep it in. C, everything you can see and do is right in front of you, including the enemy. D, there's only one quote-unquote night. Hey, wait a minute. And E, I just think it's funny to call it that. I started making some gameplay, but of course, I ran into a problem. I didn't think ahead about implementing a disable function or boolean in each of my gameplay elements. I can't just turn off the processing for the objects either, because signals can't be disabled without disconnecting them. So what's the solution to this? Abusing the GUI system. Basically, I can block the mouse from interacting with the gameplay elements with these panel things that are meant to hold buttons and text boxes and shit. When the panels are activated, they naturally block the mouse from interacting with the objects, but when they are inactive, the mouse can click on whatever is underneath them. This visibility property also doubles as a check for whether each element is enabled or not, which is useful for the gameplay loop. Oops, I'm a little bit behind, but hey, look at all this code! Today, I'm pretty sure all the mechanics in the game besides dying work. That's a very bold and probably very stupid thing to say, but right now it looks pretty good. Time to add the good stuff.
Have been locked, and you will not leave until the creature is dead.
As I thought, assuming that everything worked was a very stupid thing to do. Right now, the game crashes upon reaching stage 4, and I don't know why. Never mind, I found it. Look at this code. Can you tell what's wrong here? Pause the video and see if you can find the errors. Here, I'll even put on some nice educational music for you while you're thinking about it. TLDR, I had the wrong variable in all of these places. Anyways, the game is now functional. Now we've got plenty of time to add to it and make everything spooky. It's Wednesday again, did a bunch of cool shit that I'm not going to explain because I basically just powered through a couple days of work in a few hours. I guess now would be a good time to explain some code. You see, Godot has an implementation of the— Look, this is going to be a section about how the game loop generally works, except it was boring as shit, so here's a rough diagram of how it works and a tier list of things I enjoyed programming the most.
Are you looking at this?
The game is essentially ready for beta testing. Not everything I want in the game is in there, but first I need to make sure that the game is actually fun. And to my surprise, it actually is. At least Cole says so.
Oh, jeez.
But what about my other friends? I'll get to that in a second. While they're playing, it's time to make an itch.io page. Oh look, they broke everything. The beta testers found a hell of a lot of bugs, which is what beta testers do, but one of the most resounding complaints from them was about the console system. It wasn't intuitive, and it wasn't explained very well in the help section. This took a ton of changes, including changing the commands just a little bit and revamping the help section multiple times. That poster wasn't even there before. We had to add it to make sure players could understand what they were supposed to type. We even redid the voice lines.
You can now use the console. Type in commands to feed the monster information. Make sure to give it a unique dataset every time. You can now use the command console. Simply type in commands in the order they're shown on the poster. Be sure to type them exactly as they're shown and that you send a unique dataset every time. This will help keep the creature happy. And do not forget about the music player.
Today, the game is mostly complete, and that's good enough. I added in subtitles that are on by default, fixed some more bugs, did some final tests, uploaded, submitted, done. There are still a few things I wanted to add to the game jam that I'm adding post-jam, including a hard mode and some unlockables. But I'm already really happy with how the game turned out. The intense nature of keeping track of so many variables at the same time is surprisingly enjoyable and makes the jump scare all the more effective. In hindsight, the console wasn't a good idea in a game about reacting quickly to your environment. At the very least, it was a good learning experience about what not to do in game design, and I hope it's at least a tolerable mechanic now. But hey, working outside of the comfort zone was a lot of fun for me and my team. Thanks to both Cole and Tegan for their excellent work and work ethic. And shout out to City Fires, who is completely overqualified for the job and yet still managed to be flexible and write up strange music requests for a bunch of teenagers. You're the best! And to try out the game for yourself, the link is in the description. Thanks for watching the pilot of my channel. If you want to see more content like this, leave a like or subscribe, or both. Both is also a good option. Leave a comment if you played the game and want to tell me that you liked it, or didn't, or found a bug, the last of which is the most likely scenario. This is where I'd put my Patreon supporters, if I had any, but if you do want to support me, I've got a Ko-Fi and a Twitter, both in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later.